So I bought this set of Philips Ultinon PRO 3022. These are LED bulbs for upgrading your halogen headlights to LEDs. They are not road legal, as you see on the box here, and they claim that they will give you some extra brightness and longer lifetime. So I wanted to test this. These bulbs are fairly competitive priced compared to the halogen bulbs, but I would guess if you compare them to Philips' best halogen set, they maybe cost 2 times as much. And this Ultinon PRO 3022 is like their second line of LEDs from the bottom, the second cheapest ones. They have more expensive ones that probably are larger in size and also more expensive. So taking a look at the LED bulb itself, you can see that it have a copper board that is fairly standard if it's not a really bad quality bulb for better heat dissipation. The housing is out of aluminium. The driver that gives the power to the LED is built into the lamp, so there's no extra kind of box that takes up more space. And we can see that it got active cooling, and that is really a must for these kind of LED bulbs because they don't radiate the heat the same way as a halogen. So if you have a higher powered LED, it produces a lot of heat still, so we need some good cooling to keep the brightness up. And you see the socket here is actually adjustable, and the socket holder is out of plastic, but it's just very hard to turn around. So it got an automotive grade LED module produced for these kind of applications, and the LED module's size is fairly similar to that you find in the halogen bulb, that tungsten coil that produces all of the light by heating itself up. And you want to have it similarly sized for it to produce the same kind of beam pattern, because it's very crucial that the light emits from the same spots, otherwise the focus will be off, and also you will have a lot of glare blinding oncoming traffic, and also you will have the light not in the correct places because the reflector is designed upon the bulb, and that tungsten coil in the halogen bulb being in a specific place. So it doesn't really seem to have any kind of glare shield on the top. If you look on a halogen bulb, it got that kind of hat on the top, so if you look straight into the lamp, you're not seeing where it emits the light to maybe reduce glare. So I'm not sure how this is gonna affect the overall glare performance of this bulb. And overall, it's a fairly standard LED bulb. There's nothing too special about it. So now we will test the overall brightness and see how it compares to a standard LED bulb. And I do this with my homemade integrated sphere, which integrates all of the light and bouncing it around in that bulb. And then we have this lux meter measuring the brightness. A real kind of integrated sphere like this would cost $5,000 plus and would have accurate numbers and such, but this gives a good indication when we are measuring the same kind of bulbs, the overall brightness of them. So here we have the LED bulb seated in this homemade integrated sphere, and here we can read the measurements from it, the brightness. And I've now waited a few minutes for this to stabilize. As we can see, the brightness won't drop anymore, so we want to test it how it actually is stable, because these kind of LED bulbs, from when you turn it on, they will decrease in brightness, because it needs to kind of find a level where the cooling and the heating equals out each other. So it kind of drops the current down, and then also the output goes down. Because if you have because if the LEDs gets too hot and don't have enough cooling, the LEDs will die straight away if there's like no control, or they will die prematurely. This is like made for 1000 hours plus, but if the cooling is not up to the task, it will maybe only last 100 hours or 10 hours and such. So yeah, it's stable at 16.7. With bad bulbs, often the specifications are all wrong, but maybe they also like take the measurements straight away, and yeah. Like when you turn it on, it goes from like 20 and then down to what we had earlier. Now it's cooled down a little bit, so it will continue to drop until we find that same stable brightness as earlier. So after taking all of the measurements, we can see that the Philips Ultinon PRO 3022 is around 30% brighter compared to a standard OEM ECE certified halogen bulb. So this is definitely an upgrade in my opinion, and if we compare this LED bulb to the best kind of halogen bulbs, the Austrian Night Breaker laser or the Philips Extreme Vision Generation 2, I guess, it's also 20% brighter than those again. And if we compare it to the Philips Ultinon Access 2500, which I have reviewed earlier, you can watch that on my channel, we can see that it is brighter than that bulb as well. And this bulb here is like the step up or the upgrade from that bulb. And the Philips Ultinon Access 2500, it is rated at 1600 lumens for each bulb, and the Philips Ultinon PRO 3022, which we are testing in this video here, is rated at 1800 lumens. So the difference there is 12.5%, but in my testing here the actual difference between them are 10%, but that is fairly close to what Philips claim. So then let's look at the beam pattern in this low beam free-form reflector headlight. Free-form reflectors are when the beam pattern is made with this reflector and not by the lens itself or like the glass. So first we have the halogen, overall nice beam pattern, nice and even, and then we have the LED. We can see that we get a little bit less spread down below, and overall like the light beam is a little bit sharper, like the edges of the light, but overall it puts the light in the correct places. So I guess these both beam patterns are good in its own way. So then let's put the LED bulb in a projector low beam headlight. This requires a little bit more out of the bulb because it's a much smaller reflector. So if the design is off, you will maybe have some black or dark spots, or the focus and the hotspots won't be in the correct place, or you don't have any hotspots at all. So here we have the halogen. As we can see, when taking down the brightness, we see like where the hot spot is, where you have most of the light, and overall this kind of projector headlights spreads the light much more evenly out and gives you also a much wider beam pattern compared to a free-form reflector, which is much more narrow. And here we have the LED one. I have to say the beam pattern looks almost the same, and overall I'm very happy with it. Same as with the reflector one. You get the hotspot in the correct places. You don't have any more glare other than the bulb being brighter, producing then a little bit more glare. But the hotspots are in the correct place, nice beam pattern, so I think they look really good in both of these kind of headlamps. And just one thing to remember, in both of these videos I filmed on my iPhone, so I can't set or lock the brightness. So when switching between them, you can't judge by the brightness there. I will show you the measurements by our like a lux meter that actually shows if it's brighter or not. So here we can see the LED bulb in the halogen reflector headlamp, and as we can see, it's not brighter than the halogen in all of the points. It seems to be a little bit more focused, but you see in those hotspots the LED is just much more brighter, giving up to 100% more light there in the middle, and overall it's also 30% brighter, so you will have 30% more light on the road, but it's distributed a little bit differently compared to the halogen bulb. And when looking at the graph, we can see that basically the LED bulb is brighter than the halogen over the whole range, especially in those points in the middle. And we see on the edges where there was a 25% difference, where the halogen actually was brighter. There's not really too much light out there on the edges, so a small difference there makes up for a big percentage difference, I guess. So then let's switch to the projector headlight and see how they compare. So here we can see that the LED bulb is stronger on the edges, and when it comes to the middle and the hotspot, the difference is not that large when we compare to the reflector headlamp, where we almost had like 100% increase of light in the hotspot. Here we see a maximum of like 40% or 55%. So considering that the LED bulb is only 30% brighter, we can see that the LED bulb focuses the light a little bit differently, and it overall gives more spread light, which is stronger, and also the hotspot, it also is able to focus more light there to give it more brightness there. If you see in the middle, there's a little bit more of a black spot in the middle there, but it's not much, and you won't really notice that on the road. On some LED bulbs that are much thicker of design, you will see like a black rectangle all the way up to the focus or hotspot point, because it's just too thick and it can't really mimic the halogen bulb in the same way as we see this one does. It's only a little bit more of a dark spot there in the bottom. And when it comes to glare, I wouldn't say it's a problem. We see it's like a 56% increase, but the glare is already so low, so it doesn't take too much. I would guess if there was like a 500 to 1000% increase, you would probably start to get flashed by oncoming drivers, but up to 100%, I don't think anybody will notice or see the difference there. But it gives more glare. But it's also because the LED bulb is brighter, but it also is not able to perform as good as the halogen when it comes to glare. But I don't see it as a problem. So my opinion here is that the LED bulb is performing to its price point. It seems like Philips now have a fairly good range of LED bulbs in different price categories, and you get performance and lifetime comparable to what you actually pay for them. So if these bulbs are within your like preferred price point, I think it's a good buy. Otherwise, you can also have a look at the more expensive LED bulbs from Philips, or the cheaper Access one. I tested that one also in another video. That one is also performing better than the halogen bulbs. So overall, I think it's a very good product, and overall it's brighter than the halogens by up to 30%, and when testing it in projector and reflector headlamps, it seems to perform well, giving a good beam pattern where the hotspots are in the correct point, and we don't really see any more glare that will blind oncoming traffic, which is good.